All right, continuing my journey through the world of the Cars. Cars 2, which I found to be a hoot. This was a lot of fun and very impressive ocean animation that started off the movie. I guess that was very new for its time as well. Now, I fully expected a retread of the first one and did not expect to be seeing a James Bond satire. It doesn't do too much for the heartstrings, though it does have a motif on friendship, which was nice. The plot presents an evil plan to convince cars to take a special type of gas that's laced with particles that destroy them when it's hit by an energy beam. Now, if this were made today, conspiracy boards would be convinced they were trying to warn us about graphene. Maybe they were. Now, the sets are huge in this one. It seems to be Pixar showing off how big they can go. It introduces, well, as I mentioned, oceans, which look fantastic in 3D. And everything is looking much more realistic, very portrait-esque, kind of that you get a lot of kind of blurrish colors blending together feel in the deep background. I felt. I'm sure there's a term for that, and I just can't find it. Now, everything is looking much more realistic, even if the script is going full parody. For 3D, though, I felt it was fairly conservative. I'd used the words good enough, though there's nothing really that shouts out in stereo, although it uses a slightly wider base than most live-action stereo filmed around this time. Although the 3D version of Cars 1, which again came out a couple of years later, does seem slightly wider, so it's kind of weird to see a sequel have lesser stereo than the one that came before. Perhaps that one had lessons learned from this one. Now, on the previous one, I had wondered why there was. I had a question about why something seemed blown up, and Variety Films was kind enough to explain that it almost certainly had to do with not wanting to put something in negative parallax that would get cut off by the frame of the screen. And I wonder if that's why they push in the sides here, like I often see on conversions, and they do kind of the side push in where they kind of push the whole frame back. And I wonder if the purpose for that is not so much a side effect of doing any conversion techniques, but it's just to make sure everything avoids getting into that negative parallax where it being cut off by the screen would be very jarring. But having said that, as much as I enjoyed this movie, the 3D did little to draw attention to itself. Also, the faster pace meant there was less time to soak it all in, where in the first one you tended to stay in one place and the action was really in the dialogue, so you noticed the scenery. Here it seems to be a source of pride to squeeze in as many settings as time will allow, which is fine. It's fun, but the 3D whizzes by and never much of any reason to notice it. Now, this is a rare Pixar film in that it has an actual bad guy. And looking over this time period, it seems to be part of a run of movies, including Up and Toy Story 3, that also broke with Pixar tradition and had bad guys. In the description, I'm going to include a link to a video that describes how Woody from Toy Story 1 went from a bad guy to a confused guy in the development of that movie and started the Pixar approach to an antagonist, because that was a really big part of the Pixar formula. Now, as I said, I love this film. Not what I expected, but I had a great time with it. And I suspect, though, the simple good versus bad premise may have made it feel like any other cartoon. That is, not Pixar. And just before I sat down to record my thoughts, I read that this is actually the worst reviewed Pixar film. Well, so I am not like the others. I wonder if that dislike came from an expectation to get a big, warm Pixar hug, and instead being treated to gunfights. I admit, I kind of wondered why they dropped any hint of this movie in the third one. But I'm not going to talk about that one next. I'm trying to go in order of release, so I'm going to step outside Pixar and take a look at the Planes movies next.